Welcome to Unit 8. Some concepts to remember: shape, asymmetrical balance, value, figure ground, and chroma and value, using those two things with color. New concepts that will investigate pattern and texture, transparency, order, radial and spiral, figure versus composition. Let's start with our concept review. Now, geometric shapes are closed by a boundary, and they usually include a very specific number of points and lines, and this includes shapes that are bounded by curves like circles and ellipse. Organic shapes are shapes defined by curved lines. They are often irregular and found in nature. Asymmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance we investigated in Unit 4 when we talked about the amount of space surrounding a figure. Value. Value is the lightness or darkness present. Figure ground. A figure ground relationship can be either figure dominant, or figure ground ambiguous. When I say figure, I know it can be really confusing because it can be mixed up with the word figurative. So figurative is a way of describing the type of figure that you see. So here I have two sets of figures, both organized in the exact same way. One is a set of circles and one is a set of cats. The ground is the area behind the figure. It's sometimes hard to notice it if the ground is pure white. So I recommend using either a gray, tinted, or toned background in order to really understand how the relationship between the figure and ground influence how viewers see your work. When using chroma and value with color, I want you to think it can be really confusing if I give you a name like heartthrob, borscht, adrift, or honeybeads for you to create the type of color that I'm thinking about in my head. So the Munsell color system, which was introduced in the color unit, talks about color being broken up into 3 dimensions. There's the first dimension, which is the hue, like red, yellow, or green. And then there is variations in chroma, which is how much or how little gray, and value, how light or how dark. So each hue, each color has 3 dimensions. As you're doing your color mixing, I want you to understand that even though it might be really fun and bright and beautiful to mix pure hue and pure hue, or combined color with pure hues, it is actually the muted and the chromatic grays that we live with on a daily basis. They make up most of the world that we see. So learning to use and create muted tones and chromatic grays will be essential as you grow as a creative. I wanted to remind you of our 2 different color systems, the additive and subtractive color system. So in the additive color system, the complements are as follows: red to blue, yellow to purple, or violet, yellow to violet, and then blue to orange. But in the Munsell color system, which is a subtractive color mixing, and this is really great for digital color mixing, the complement to red is actually blue-green. So as you can see from this smoky color dramatic outfit, that the muted tones and the muted grays are actually what make our world so interesting. When creating gray, yes, you can create gray with black and white, but it is also useful to learn how to mix gray using complements. Some new concepts: pattern and texture. So pattern are figures that repeat with regular or ordered space between each figure. Some geometric patterns are probably the best example that I could think of to really articulate that regular and orderedness that pattern actually encompasses. Now, textures are a little bit different. There are figures that repeat with irregular between each figure. So there's some irregularity. So often things don't repeat, and this could be an actual texture, implied texture, or constructed texture, a texture you make up in your head. Transparency. So transparency is the illusion of depth created with line, value, desaturation, and sometimes color. What you're looking at are some plates from Joseph Albers' Interaction of Color. Now, if you notice, in order to give the illusion that things are overlapping, there is some desaturation happening, some adding of gray. So color dipping into another hue in order to get that third color that's on the first one, or the center bars that shift in value in the second one. Composition, order, we already went over and went through, but I wanted to talk about spiral and radial. So when you think about order, it really is about the negative space. Is the negative space between figures the same? Is there alignment versus a lack of alignment with things overlap, with variations of space between each? So order. So here's an example how an artist is using order. There's slight changes in the order, but for the most part, the pieces aligned along the grid. And there is also a little bit of transition happening in this between shapes and color. Let's talk a little bit about radial and spiral compositions. So a lot of times folks will get confused by a radial figure and a radial composition. The difference is the negative space. It's the ground around the figure. So in a radial composition, the figure pushes all the way to the edge, versus in a radial figure, there is negative space on all three sides, or all four sides. Spiral compositions. A spiral figure and a spiral composition are much different. If you look at the spiral composition on the right, you can see there's a spiral in the figure and also a spiral in the negative space. So that concludes Unit 8. What I do have for you is some inspiration photos to get you started on your last project. So just some items and ways of working that I wanted to introduce you to before you begin that project. So most of these artists, I think except for one, are Los Angeles-based artists. So you're able to maybe catch them in a show or in open studios here in Los Angeles. So this is the one artist that's not located in Los Angeles, but the work is exploratory. It definitely looks at data and information, as well as organizing color. And it has references to the Albers interaction of color that I talked about earlier. So Tamashi Jackson uses some of the color theory to talk about various data points in regards to social justice and equity. Tamashi Jackson is also working in various mediums, which is really exciting. So I encourage you to take a look at her work. You can find it all over the web and the internet, so I would take a look. And we saw one of Eamon's pieces. The rest are all LA-based artists that you can catch. Eamon's work talks about signals and signs, and also has the most magnificent uses of color and color palettes. Brenna Youngblood, exploring collage and textures and surfaces. Gloria Elisa Margarita Sanchez is exploring weaving and thinking about color and materials. So we've been mostly working on 2D and working on paper, but for this last project, you're welcome to really think about using the camera to compose, like you can compose in the frame of the camera so that you can add things to your work that you might not necessarily think about if you were turning this in person, because things could fall off. But if we're using this medium in the digital space, it opens you up to a lot of flexibility of objects. And of course, I had to put Michelle Carla Handel in here. So if you are on campus and happen to be walking through the art building inside the courtyard there. There are two vitrines. Michelle Carla Handel has one vitrine and I have the other. So if you get a chance, take a look at the two pieces that we both have as part of the installation there on campus. I'm happy to give you some extra credit points if you get over and view both of the vitrines and just take a little selfie with yourself in there with the two works. So I want to thank you for a wonderful semester. I know you'll do some great work, and I look forward to you seeing more things that you create in the future.